In this video, we're going to create a simple invoice application with Laravel on backend and Vuejs on frontend. On the end of this video, we get application like this. You can see our invoice lists. Create a new invoice. For example here, add customer, due date, reference number, add items, add quantity, add discount, and add notification, and then save it in our database. Alright, you can see the invoice details, print invoice, edit invoice, and delete invoice. Alright, let's now start a new Laravel application by opening up our terminal and make sure we're in a good directory where I'm going to create our project. For me, I am in desktop/tutorials. The first thing I want to do is to create a new project with Composer, create Laravel/Laravel, and the name of our project. Since I'm going to create an invoice application, I'm going to call it invoice-app. Alright, our Laravel application has been created. Let's go ahead and cd into our invoice/app and open it in our VS Code. Let's now open terminal in our VS Code and run php artisan serve, which should spin up a web server for me. And let's open up this URL right here in our browser. Cool. So our Laravel application is installed and we can see our default Laravel application installed here. The next thing I want to do is to open up a new tab in browser and open up this URL localhost/phpMyAdmin and create a database called invoice-app-db. Okay. Let's go now in our VS Code and see our project. The first thing I want to do in my project is to open up the env file. This is the environment we've heard as all our database connection information. So I want to set up a database since we are going to be using Laravel and MySQL. I have already created a database called invoice-app-db. My username is going to be root and my password is just root. That should be it for our env file. I'm going to open up a new tab terminal because I want to create a model, migration, and factory files for our database now that is linked. So let's create a model with a migration file. We can use PHP artisan make model, which going called counter -m. Alright, we can see our model was successfully created and also created a migration file. So let's take a look that appear in our database folder on migration. You should see counters table. Now what we are going to do is to add some columns in our new counters table. The first thing I want to do is string key, which is unique, table string prefix. The next is table string value. So now our database is connected to our env file. We can create our migration file. Let's create this out and run this migration by using php artisan migrate. We can see that is migrated this file and along with other some files that were in the migration by default. We are not going to be using those. Now we are going to create some item to our counter. We'll create this out and run php artisan make factory, the name of our factory, counter factory. Let's go in our database on factories and you can see count factory. Let's now add some items, key, invoice, prefix, inv, value, okay. Let's go now in seeders on database seed, just comment this line and change user to counter. All right. Let's now run our seed php artisan db seed. Okay. Now we are seeding the database. Hit create now and run a new model with php artisan make model product -m c. Now we are create a new tab called products. Let's go on migration on product table and add some columns. Table string item code, which will be unique, table text description, table double unit price. Okay, let's go in our terminal and create this out and run our migration by using php artisan migrate. Okay, our migration has been created. Let's create this out and create a new factory of our product with php artisan make factory and the name of our factory, which is product factory. All right, let's go in our factories folder on product factory and add some items. Okay, item code should be IC 1000 dot round, which will be between 10 and 5,000. Description, you can add any description you want. Okay, the name of our product with round, which will be between 10 and 500. Unit price, empty round, between 100 and 1000. We'll go in Cedar, on database Cedar, and copy this line and change counter to product, and after go in our terminal and run new factory migration by using PHP artisan db seed. Okay, now we are going to continue the process by create the terminal, by create a new model with PHP artisan make model customer -m-c. All right, go in our migration on customer table, add some columns, table, string, first name, table, string, last name, table, string, email, which will be unique, table, string, address. All right, after that, let's create a terminal and run PHP artisan migrate. Okay, create the terminal. Let's create this out and run PHP artisan make factory. The name of our factory, which will be customer factory. Go in factories on customer factory and add some item. Here, first name, which will be this faker name, last name, this faker name, email, this faker email, address, this faker address. Alright, let's create a terminal and run PHP artisan db seed. Okay, and create a terminal. Let's run now a new model with PHP artisan make model. The name of our model, invoice. Go in migration on invoice table and add some columns, table, string, number, which will be unique, table, integer, customer ID, table, date, table date, due date, table, string, reference, which will be numerable, table, text, terms and conditions, table double, subtotal, table, discount, which will be by default 0, table double, total. Okay, let's create the terminal and run php artisan migrate. Alright, let's create the terminal and run php artisan make factory invoice factory. Okay, which will help us to add some item, number, this faker, number between 10 and 1000, customer ID, this faker, number between 1 and 20, date, this faker, date, due date, this faker date, reference, ref dot round between 10 to 500, terms and conditions, this faker, paragraph. All right, subtotal, this faker, number between 10, 100 and 1000, discount, this faker, number between 10 to 100, total, this faker, number between 20 and 2000. Okay, let's go in terminal and create the terminal and run php artisan db seed. Okay, let's now create a terminal and add a new model with php artisan make model. The name of our model, invoice item. Okay, let's go on invoice item table and add some columns. table, integer, invoice ID, table, integer, product ID, table, double, unit price, table, integer, quantity, after that, let's create a terminal and run php artisan migrate. Okay, our migration has been created. Let's create a terminal and run php artisan make factory, the name of our factory, which will be invoice item factory. Okay, go in our factories on invoice item factory and add some item. Invoice ID, this faker number between 100 and 1000, product ID, this faker number between 10 and 100, unit price, this faker number between 100 to 5000, quantity, this faker number between 1 and 5, okay, I'll create a terminal and go now in on database seeders. We are going to add a different model. I was forget to add invoice in a unit. Okay, let's add invoice. All right, and run php db seed, add invoice item. Okay, and run php artisan db seed. All right, create a terminal. Now I'm finished to add model, migration, factory, and create some controller. Let's close all those files opens. We will no longer need it again. Let's now go ahead and start the new part of our application, which will be the front end of our application. We begin it by install Vuejs, Vueroot, and Vueroad, and the package JSON dependencies, which will help us to compile our JavaScript. Alright, let's now jump up in our terminal and run npm install vue-load. Next, vue, next, vue-root, next, alright, we finished it to install it, and right create the terminal and run again npm install vite.js / plugin -view -- force. This plugin view will help us to run Vue.js in Vite.js. Alright, the plugin view is installed. We'll now clear this out and run npm run dev. Let's now go in our invoice project on vite.config.js and import Vue from Vite.js Vue plugin and add Vue here. Okay, alright. Now we finish to configure Vue.js in our Vite file config, and let's now go on resource in JS and create our first Vue.js component. Let's begin by create a new folder called component. In component folder we'll add app.vue, and in app.vue file we will add template, okay, h1 hello. This is my first Vue.js free component. Let's now go in app.js and import create app from Vue, import app from ./component / view.app, create app mount app. Alright, let's now go on Vue on welcome blade PHP file and select the content of this welcome blade, remove it, and just add a div which will get ID app. This ID app will come from our app Vue.js file. Let's now remove our default style and add our style by using Vite resource /css /app css. Let's add JS by using Vite resource /js /app.js. Alright. Now you can see in our browser our component is mounted. Okay. Alright. Let's now go in our VS Code on resource in JS on component and create a new folder called invoice, and in invoice we're going to create a new file called index.vue. Alright, And in index.view, let's add template h1 index invoice app component. Alright, let's now create a new Vuejs file on our component called notfound.view and add template page not found. Okay. After that, let's now create the view root. First, we are going to create a folder called router. In router, we are going to add a file called index.js. Alright. In that root index.js, we will add import create router create web history from view.root, create a new const called router, create router, history, create web history. Alright, let's export the default router. Let's now import invoice index from /component /invoice /index.view, import not found from .component /notfound.view. Okay, let's now create a new const root array. Alright, let's add path / component invoice index path / path match component not found. Alright, let's now this const roots in our router const. Alright, let's go on roots in web.php and add root get path match function return view welcome. Where path match. Alright, this route will help us to return not found page in our Laravel. So right now go on root in index.js and just change here. It will be component. All right. After that, let's go in our app.view and remove this line and add router view. All right. Let's go in app.js and import router from /router/index.js. Okay, let's now add use router. All right, and let's go now in our browser and you can see our index invoice page component. All right, we can add whatever in the as URL and you can see the page not found is called. All right, let's just add in our not found page. Router link, which will help us to go back to our index page. Okay, back to home page. All right, to slash. All right, this link will help us to return to our home page. Okay, now our view router work well. So let's now learn how to display all invoices we have in our database. So the first thing I want to do is to add the template for application by open a new tab terminal and go to the GitHub repository where is the template. Let's open a new tab in our browser and go to this URL github.com/share-tutorials-dev. In this repository, let's go on invoices HTML-CSS. In index.html, select and copy this part. All right, let's go now in our VS Code in our index.view. Remove this line and add a div with class container and pass the template that we copy in a minute. All right, so let's go back in our GitHub repository and copy the style CSS in our invoice-html-dev on asset, on CSS, in app.css, select and copy the content of this app.css. All right, let's go in our VS Code on resources, on CSS in app.css and pass the style that we have copied in a minute. All right, now we can see the template that we are going to use. So let's go on our invoices on index.view and add script setup. In script, let's import unmounted ref from view. Let's now create an object. Write the name of our object, invoices, which will be a ref. Let's now add unmounted async On mounted, let's add a get invoices method that we are going to create in a unit. Okay, let's add const get invoices async. This method will return response await axios.get API get or invoices. Okay, let's add a console log response. Now we are going to add a get or invoices route, which will return or invoices from our database. Okay, we'll go in our routes on API and add routes get slash get or invoice invoice controller get or invoices. All right, let's now call our invoice controller by use app http controller invoice controller. Okay, let's now go in our invoice controller and create a function called get or invoices. All right, before to add our function, we are going to add a model called invoice by use app models invoice. All right, let's now create our function public function. The name of our function get or invoice. Invoice or return response JSON invoice invoices. All right, let's now go in our browser and inspect element to see that our invoices is called. We go in console and you can see our invoices is called. Let's now go in our index.view and in a comment this console log and add invoices.value, which will be response.data.invoices. All right, let's go in our template now and add our invoices in this table by doing view for item from invoices key item .id, vif invoices .length. All right. If we don't have any invoices, we return invoice not found. All right. Let's go ahead and add item.id, item.date, item.number, item.customer ID, item.due date, and item.total. Alright, now you can see our item is appear. Alright, as you can see, our customer is showed by the ID. Now we are going to change that and get name of our customer. To do that, we are going to return in our VS Code on invoice controller and the return invoice with customer. All right, order by ID desk get. Okay, now we are going to add a function in our model. Let's add public function customer return this belongs to customer class. So let's return in our index.view. And in a comment, this console log. Okay, let's return in our browser. On inspect, you can see our customer is now appear for each invoice. All right, we go in our index.view and change customer ID with customer dot first name if item customer exist. Okay, if it is not exist, we are going to add v else, which will show nothing. All right, now you can see our invoice list. So let's now run how to search an invoice in our list of invoices. So let's go in our VS Code on index.view and add a new reactive state by adding let's search invoice ref. All right. So right now add a new function which will search invoice. Const add the name of our function called search. Async rate response await axios.get /apa// invoice s equal price/invoice dot vary. All right, so now we are going to create a new route in our api.php called /invoice. Let's go on routes in api.php and add new route. Let's copy this route. Okay, paste it here and remove get or invoice and add /invoice. And here we're going to remove that one and add /invoice. We'll now create /invoice function in our invoice controller. Let's go in our invoice controller. Okay, and create a new function. Public function, the name of our function called /invoice. Request. Let's create a variable /. Request get s if variable /, is different to nil, we will return variable invoices, which will get invoice with customer where ID like percent variable percent get. All right, let's now return a response with a JSON invoices invoices. All right, else return this get or invoice. Alright, now we finished to create our search function in our invoice controller. Let's go in our index.view in our search function. Add a console log response dot data dot invoices. Alright, let's go in our browser and inspect that our invoices is called where. Alright, let's now return back in our VS Code in index.view and add in our search function invoices invoices dot value equal response dot data dot invoices. Alright, let's go now in our template. Add a v model search invoice variable and add a key app which we called our search function. Right, let's now go in our browser and verify that it works well. Let's add something here in our input search. Oh, I get an error. Let's verify what is the error. I can see here. I'm going to correct and add a response. Alright. Let's now verify that error is not exist again. Alright, it worked. Very good. Now you can see when I add an ID in our search, you can get a specific invoice if it exists. Alright, now we finish to add our search function to our Simple Invoice application. Let's now learn how to create a new invoice by first add form data and the template. So the first thing I want to do is to go in our VS Code, on resources, on GS, on component, on invoices, in index.view, and I'm going to add a new function, const the name of our function, new invoice, async, let form await axios dot get slash API slash create invoice. Alright, let's go in our roots on api.php, copy this root and paste it. Alright, let's change here and add create, change here and add create also. Now we are going to create a function in our invoice controller called create invoice. Okay, we'll go in our invoice controller and create a new function, public function, the name of our function, create invoice, request. It add variable count, which will return count where k is invoice. First, let's add a model called count. Alright, to continue by creating a new variable, random counter where key is invoice. Alright, variable invoice order by ID desk first. If we have invoice ID price 1, variable counters equal counter vary price invoice, else counters counter vary. Alright, let's now create a form data by use a variable form data number variable count prefix dot variable counters. Customer ID will be nil. Customer nil. Date due date nil. Reference nil. Discount 0. Term and conditions will be default term and conditions. Item will be product ID nil. Product nil. Unit price 0, and then quantity one. All right, let's return our response JSON with form data. All right, let's go in our index.view and add in our function new invoices. Let's add console.log form.data. Let's go in our browser and inspect. All right, on console, and you can see our form is appear. We'll return back in our VS Code, import use router from view router. Let's add const root use router. All right, let's go now in our new invoice function and add root.push /invoice/new. This function will redirect us to this new URL invoice-new. All right, I'll go in our template and add a click button. On this button, new invoice. All right, let's now go in our browser, and when we click to new invoice, it redirect us to page not found because we are not create the new invoice for the moment. We'll go in our VS Code, create a new component on invoices called new.view. All right, before add something, let's go in our browser and open a new tab in our browser. Go on our GitHub repository, which is github.com/share-tutorials-dev on invoice HTML CSS. Open index.html and go here and just copy this part of our template. All right, let's go back in our VS Code on new.view component and add template, add a div called container and paste our template. All right, we'll go on our router in index.js and import invoice new from component invoices new.view on root. Add path invoice/invoice/new component invoice new. All right, now we are going to verify that our template is appear. All right, you can see our template is here now. All right, let's now make an inspection. If I click to new invoice buttons, it will redirect us where we are going to create a new invoice and add default form data from our invoice controller function. All right, so that is all about to create form data and add template. So now we are going to learn how to insert invoice in our database. So the first thing I want to do is to go in my VS Code on resources on invoice in new.view and add script setup import on mounted ref from view. Create ret form ref and then create a const index form async ret response await axios dot get slash API slash create invoice console log form response dot data. All right, now we are going to mount this index function that I finished to create. Run mounted async index form. All right, let's inspect. You go on a console log. Okay, all right, you can see that our form is called. Let's now increment this console log and add form dot value equal response dot data. All right, now I'm going to mount it or customers, which are going to use when we are going to create a new invoice. Let or customers ref rate customer ID ref. All right, let's now create a function const the name of our function called get or customers async ret response await axios dot get slash API slash customers. Now I'm going to fetch our customers. All right, before, let's go on roots in api.php. Copy this root and paste it. All right, let's now change create invoices to customers, and also change here create invoices to all customers. Now I'm going to create a function on our customer controller called or customer. All right, let's now call our customer controller by use TTP controllers customers controller. Okay, we'll go now in our customer controller and create a function or customer by use public function, the name of our function, or customer. All right, variable customers customer order by ID desk get. All right, it's now called my customer model use models customers. All right, this function or customers will return response JSON, customers, variable customers. All right. Let's now go in my new .view. Just add a console log, response, response. All right. Now I'm going to mount it our function get or customers. All right. Let's now go in my browser and inspect that our customers is mounted. All right. You can see our customer is mounted. All right. Let's go now return in our VS Code. Then comment this console log and add our customers dot vary equal response dot data dot customers. All right. Now I'm going on template. On select tag where you're going to put our customer at v model customer ID on option. The first option going to be disabled. All right. Another option, I'm going to add v-4 customer in or customers key customer.id, which will show customers dot first name. All right, let's add the value customer dot id. All right. Yes, finish here. Let's go in my browser and verify that our select tag for customer work well. All right, now I'm going to continue on my VS Code in new.view in my template. Add v model form dot date v model form do a date v model form dot number v model form dot reference. All right, now I'm going to add items here. To add items, I'm going to go in script and add rate item ref, rate, wrist card, ref. Okay, and create a new function which will return all items I'm going to use. Const add card with param item, const item card id item dot id item code item dot item code description item dot description unit price item dot unit price quantity item dot quantity list card dot vary dot push item card. Alright, let's return in my template. And add v for item card e in wrist card k item card dot id item card dot item code item card dot description v model item card dot unit price v model item card dot quantity v if item card dot quantity item card dot quantity item card dot unit price else we are going to add nothing. If you haven't item quantity, we are going to have an empty. All right. Now we're going to open a model which will contain the item that we are going to select. Let's add a quick open model function which we are going to create in a unit. All right. We're going script const show model ref first const hide model ref true. This const will help us to open and close model. Alright, let's create a function const open model show model dot value will be different with show model dot value. Alright, let's go now in your template on add model item, class show model. Alright, when I click it open a model. Alright, now we are going to add a close model button by add a click close model function, which are going to create in a minute. Okay, let's go in a script and create close model by add const close model show model dot value, which is different with hide model dot value. Alright, let's now verify. Okay, we can open and close. Okay, I'm finished to add the function which will help us to open and close a model. Alright, let's add a close model to this button. Click close model. Yes, this function close model. Okay, all right, let's now go in our VS Code and add a list of items in our model, which will be used when we are going to select item that we are going to add to our cart of invoice. Okay, let's list products, ref create a function const get products async let response await axios dot get slash API slash products. Now I'm going to create a route which will return all products from database. Let's go on routes in api.php, copy this route and paste it. Change this customer to products and or customers to all products. All right, change here products controller. Let's call a product controller in our api.php. All right, by use http controller product controller. All right, let's now go in our product controller to create a new function. Public function, the name of our function called or product. Variable products, which will return product order by ID desk. Use model product. Let's now return response JSON products variable products. All right, now I'm going in my new .view and add a console log to verify that our function is work well. Console log products response. Okay, let's amount it our get products. Go in my browser and inspect that our product is up here. As you can see, I made a mistake. Let's verify where is a mistake. In my product controller. Oh, I forget to add get here. Okay, all right, let's now verify that work. Oh, okay, you can see now our list of products. Let's continue and add our list of products in my model here. V for item E in list product, K item.id, and add some style. All right, this is just some style that I add. P E price 1, item dot item code, item dot description, add a button, price. All right, let's add a function to this button, a click, add card function, which will get a param item. All right, let's add some style to this button. All right. Alright, let's now verify that appear in our model. Oh, there is an error. Let's verify. That, oh, I forget to add a list product in my get product function. List products dot vary will equal response dot data dot products. All right, now let's verify again. All right, you can see our product is appear in this model, but there is an error with style. Let's change something here and add okay, and copy all the content here. Okay, all right, now you can see our list of product is appear in our model. Where I'm not a big designer, but it can work. Okay. Let's continue and add this function cross model in our function add card. All right, now you can see when I open model and click to a specific product, it appear in our list of items which we are going to use to create our items. All right, it worked. Now I'm going just to add a remove function which will help us to remove a product to our list of items. We'll go in my VS Code and add a function. When we are click, we remove our products. A click remove item function, which I'm going to create in a unit. We'll go in our script and create a new function called remove item. Const remove item list cat dot vary dot split e1. Okay, let's verify if it work. Okay, all right. Okay, open model, add another item, add quantity. It work. Let's remove some item. All right, as you can see, we finished to add item to our list. We'll continue by going in my VS Code, in my template, and add v model form dot terms and conditions. Let's create a function which will return subtotal. Alright, const the name of our function. I'm going to call it subtotal. Rate total equals 0. List dot value dot map data total equal total price data dot quantity data dot unit price, which will return total. Alright, we'll go in my template and add subtotal function. Alright, it's just to verify. Okay, the subtotal is appear now. Now I'm going to add a discount v model form dot discount. Alright, the grand total, I'm going just to create a function const total which will return subtotal minus form dot value dot discount. Alright, let's go now here and add total function. Verify. Okay, you can see subtotal appear, term of condition now is appear. Now I'm finished. Let's now create a function which we are going to save our invoice in database. We'll go in my VS Code. Create a new function, const name of our function on save. If lists cat dot vary dot length 1 red subtotal equals 0 subtotal rate total totals. Alright, const form data new form data, form data dot append invoice item stringify list card dot value and copy this form data, change invoice item to customer ID and change here custom ID dot value, copy this line, paste it, change here date and add form dot value date, copy this line, change here due date, form dot value dot due date, copy this line, change here to number and here to number. And continue, copy this line, paste it, change here to reference. All right, let's continue. Add discount. All right. Add subtotal. Total. Terms and conditions. Axios.post / API / add invoice form data list card dot vary, which will be an empty table, and after we are going to direct to our list of invoice root dot push /. All right, now I'm going to create a new root which we're going to be called add invoice. Okay, we'll go in my roots on api.php, copy this root and paste it, change here to add invoice, and here add invoice, and I'm going to change here to post and go in my invoice controller, create a new function, public function, add the name of our function called add invoice, request variable request, variable invoice items, request input invoice item, invoice data subtotal, requests input subtotal. Right, let's copy this line and paste it. Change subtotal to total, and here change to total. Continue, copy this line, paste it, change total to customer ID, let's now add a new line, number, date, due date, discount, reference, terms and conditions, variable invoice, invoice create, variable invoice date. All right, for each JSON decoder, variable invoice item as item, items data product ID, items ID. Let's copy this line and change product ID to invoice ID, and here variable invoice. Okay, new line, quantity to quantity, item data unit price, item unit price. All right, invoice item, create variable item data. All right, let's add a model invoice item. All right, now we finished to create a function. We'll go on my models in invoice.php, add a protected fillable, total, customer ID, subtotal, date, due date, reference, discount, number, terms and conditions, all right. Let's go in my models. In invoice items, add a protected fillable, product ID, invoice ID, quantity, and then unit price. All right. Let's go back in my view component in new.view and add on save button our function called on save. All right, we go in my browser and verify that it works. Select customer, due date, add a reference, add a new line of item, okay, add the quantity, and the second line of item, write something in term and condition, add discount, and click on save button to verify that it works. Oh, let's inspect. Get an error. Yeah, I made a mistake. Let's verify the kind of a mistake that I made. All right, let's go in my VS Code and verify where is mistake. All right, let's verify here. I made a mistake here. I forget to add a json.string file. Okay. Let's change here to subtotal. All right. And change here to total. Now let's continue and verify if it works again. Select item, add due date, add some reference, add the line of item, quantity. I got again a mistake. Let's verify. Oh, I add a bad root. Let's just go in my roots and change product controller to invoice controller. Yes, my function was created in invoice controller, not in product controller. All right, I think there is no mistake. Stay again. Let's verify. Item and condition. All right, now it work well. Okay, so that is all about create a new invoice. So let's now run how to show invoice. So the first thing I want to do is to go in our VS Code on invoices in index.view and add a new function, const the name of our function, on show, add param id, router dot push slash invoice slash show price param ID. We'll go in template and add this function that we have created in a unit. You click on show item.id. Alright, we'll go now in our browser and click to a specific invoice and verify if it will direct us to a specific invoice details. Alright, it will direct us, but to show us that the page not found, let's go back in our VS Code and create the show page. Alright, we'll go in invoices and create the new page called show.view. Alright, we'll add templates and add a div container. Okay, in our GitHub repository, and copy this show invoice HTML and add it in our show.view. Alright, now let's go in our router in index.js and import invoice show from components invoices show.view. Alright, add in const roots path /invoice /show /param ID component invoice show. Alright, add props true. Let's go back in our browser and verify that our details of invoice template is add where. Let's click to this invoice. Alright, it will direct us to our show page. Let's go back now in our VS Code in our show.view. Remove this one. Okay. Alright, you can see where in our browser. Now we are going to add the details of this invoice from database. We'll go back in our VS Code in show.view. And add script setup import on mounted ref from view. Ret form ref ID const props define props ID type string default. Alright, let's go now and create a function const the name of our function get invoice async ret response await axios dot get add back type /API /show invoice /variable props dot id. Let's go now in our roots on api.php and add the new root. Let's copy these roots and paste it. Alright, let's now change here to show and post to get. Alright, let's add a param id, change here to show. Alright, now we are going to create a function called show invoice. Let's go now in HTTP on controller, in invoice controller, and add a new function called show invoice. Alright, public function show invoice and add param id. A variable invoice with customer find by id. Alright, we will return response JSON invoice variable invoice. Alright, finish to create our function. We'll go now in our show.view and add a console log form response data invoice. Alright, let's mount this function. On mounted, async get invoice. Alright, our function is mounted. Let's go in our VS Code and verify if our simple invoice is called in our console. Alright, now you can see our invoice in our console. Let's close it and go back to our VS Code and show.view. On our get invoice function, add form.vary response.data.invoice. Alright, let's increment this console log. Alright, let's now go ahead in our template and change here form.id form.created at form.customer first name if form.customer is exists. Alright, now we are going to add our form.number, form date, form due date, form dot reference. Alright, now we are going to finish by add our list of items. Before to add our list of items, let's verify in our browser if it works. Oh, there is a mistake. Let's verify where this mistake comes from. or I made a mistake here. Let's change here to form.date. Alright, let's reload this page and verify now if the error was removed. Alright, now you can see the details of our invoice. Right now we are going to add the list of items of this invoice. We go in our invoice controller and add invoice items. Alright, let's create in models in invoice.php a function called invoice items, fabric function invoice items, which will return this has many invoice items class. Alright, let's now verify in our browser if the invoice items is appear. Let's zoom and show if our invoice items is added. Alright, you can see our invoice items. We'll go back in our invoice controller and add dot product. Alright, we'll go in models in invoice items and add a function fabric function product. Return this belongs to products class. This function alright, right now go in our browser and verify now if our invoice items is appear. Alright, and product also is appear. Okay, let's close this console, go back to our show.view component and add the list of our invoice items. V4 item E in form.invoice items key item.id E price 1 item.product.description item.unit price item.quantity item.unit price multiply by item.quantity. Alright, let's add subtotal form.subtotal form.discount form.terms and conditions. Form.total. Alright, now I'm finished. Let's remove this one. I just add this HTML tag to make more presentable. Alright, let's now add a function which will help us to print invoice. We'll go in our VS Code and add function const print windows.print router.push / catch. Alright, let's add this function to our print buttons. A click print. Alright, now you can see we can print invoice. Alright, so let's learn how to update invoice. So the first thing I want to do is to go in our VS Code, on resources, on invoice, in show.view, and create a new function. Const on edit, add param, router.push / invoice / edit / price ID. Alright, I go in my template and add this function that I has created in a unit. A click on edit, add param form.id. Let's now go in our browser and click on edit button to verify if it will redirect us where. Alright, you can see it will redirect to a new URL, but the page is not found because we haven't created it for the moment. We'll go back in our VS Code and create a new component on invoices called edit.view and add template, add a div container, and go in our GitHub repository, copy the HTML template, go back in our VS Code in edit.view and paste it in div container. Alright, let's go now on router in index.js and import invoice edit from components invoices edit.view. Alright, let's go in roots now and add path / invoice / edit ID component invoice edit props true. Alright, let's now go in our browser and verify that our edit.view component is appear. Alright, let's now go back in our VS Code on edit.view, and add script, setup, import, on mounted, ref, from view, let form, ref, id, const, props, define props, id, type string, default. All right. Let's create a new function, const get invoice, async, rate response, await axios.get /API/edit invoice /props.id. Let's go in our roots in API.php, copy this root and paste it, change show to edit here. All right. Now we are going to create a new function in our invoice controller. Public function edit invoice param id. We'll go in show invoice function, copy the content of this function and paste it in our edit invoice function. All right. Let's go in our editor view and add a console log, form, response.data.invoice. All right. Let's mount this function. On mounted, async, get invoice. All right. We go now in my browser. All right. Our get invoice is workware. We go back in our VS Code in edit.view. All right. Now I'm going to use the different function come from in our new.view component. All right. We'll copy these two lines. Go in our edit.view. Paste it here. Go back in our new.view. Copy this function, get all customers, paste it in our edit.view. All right. Go back in our new.view. Copy, get all customer unmounted and paste it in our edit.view unmounted function. All right, go back in our new.view, copy this select tag and paste it in our edit.view. All right, let's go in our browser. As you can see our list of customer. All right, now we are going to make a simple change here to get the name of our specific customer for this invoice. All right, form.vary response.data.invoice. Let's comment this line. It is no longer necessary. Form.customer ID all right, you can see the name of the customer of this invoice. Let's go back in our VS Code and continue to add different details of our invoice. V model form.date, v model form.due date, v model form.number, v model form.reference. By add details of our items, v for item cut, e in form.invoice items key, item card.id. all right, v if item card dot product, item card dot product dot item code, item card dot product dot description. V else item card dot item code, item card dot description. all right, v model item card dot unit price, v model item card dot quantity, item card dot quantity multiplied by item card dot unit price. all right, let's go in our browser. Now you can see the details of our items for this specific invoice. Now we are going to add a function that will delete an invoice item. Let's go back in our VS Code in edit.view and create a new function. Const the name of our function, delete invoice item, add param id e, form.vary.invoice items dot split e1. If id is different of indefine, axios.get /API/delete invoice /items price id. Now we are going to create the delete invoice items root. Alright, let's go in our roots in api.php, copy this line, paste it, change here to delete invoice items, and here to delete invoice items. Now we are going to create a function in our invoice controller which will delete an invoice item. Alright, go in our invoice controller, create a new function, public function, the name of our function, delete invoice items, add param id, variable invoice item, invoice item, find or fail, variable id, invoice items, delete. Alright, let's go back in our edit.view and add this function to our delete buttons. A click delete invoice items item card dot id e. Alright, let's go now in our browser, verify that our delete function is work. Oh, it did not work well. Let's inspect in console log to verify what is mistake. Go back in our VS Code in edit.view on our delete invoice item function. Oh, I made a mistake here. We are going to just change to this split to splice. Alright, yes. Right now, go back in our VS Code and click on delete invoice items buttons. Alright, our delete function is work well. Now we are going to add new line of our items. Let's go back in our VS Code in new.view, copy these lines, go in our edit.view and paste it here. Alright, we'll go back in our new.view component, copy this function and go in our edit.view, paste this function here, go back in our new.view, copy this get product function unmounted and go in our edit.view unmounted and paste it. Alright, go back in our new .view in our template. Copy this URL tag, go in our edit.view and paste it here. Go back in our new .view. Copy this class. Go in our edit.view. Paste it here. Copy this close model. Go in our edit.view. Add it here. Alright, add this here also. And go back in our new .view. Copy this open model. Paste it in edit.view. Alright, let's go back in new.view and copy these two functions, open model and close model. Go in edit.view and paste it here. Alright, let's now verify if it works on our browser. Alright, but we found an error. Let's inspect where is the error come from. The error come here. We are not create an add card function in our edit.view. We'll go in new.view, copy this add card function, go in our edit.view and paste it here. Alright. Let's just change here, product ID. And in the comments this line. And add form.vary.invoice items.push item card. Alright. Let's go back in our browser and verify that I can add a new line. Alright, can add the new line and remove the line. Now I'm going to finish here by add term condition, subtotal and total. Alright, let's go back in our VS Code in edit.view and add v model form dot terms and conditions. Alright. Go in our new .view component, copy the subtotal function and paste it in our edit.view. Alright. And then change here to form dot vary dot invoice items if add it in our if condition. All right, if all right, now we are going to add this subtotal here. All right, add the discount v model form dot discount. All right, now we're going to add a total. Go in our new dot view, copy this function total, paste it in our edit dot view. All right, and add if condition. Form dot vary dot invoice item, where we return this line. Let's add this total function. We are just creating a unit here. All right, yes, let's now go in our VS Code and verify if all work well. Very good. Now we are going to create a new function which will update our invoice. I will go back in our VS Code on invoices in edit.view and create a new function which will help us to update our invoice. Const the name of our function on edit, add param id, if form.vary.invoice items length is super or equal 1, we are going just inherit function to see if our edit function work. Let's just go in my template and add this function that I create in a unit to these buttons. A click on edit form.id read verify. All right, just add the new lines of items and click on save button. All right, you can see our array model is up here. Let's now go back in our VS Code in edit.view on our edit function. All right, let's now just go in new.view and copy all the content of our save function. All right, and go in our edit.view on edit function and then just paste it here. All right, let's now make some modification. Now we're going to use form.vary.invoice. Let's paste it here. add here form.vary.customID, change our Axios post to API/update invoice and add form.vary.id. Form data. Change here to form.vary.invoice items. Alright, now I'm going to create these update invoice routes. We'll go in our routes on api.view, just copy this route, paste it here, change get to post, and here to update invoice, and here to update invoice. Now I'm going to create an update invoice function in our invoice controller. Alright, we'll go in our invoice controller and create a new function, public function, the name of our function, update invoice, and then request variable request variable ID. Alright, variable invoice where ID variable ID first. Alright, variable invoice subtotal, variable request subtotal, copy this line, change subtotal to total. Alright, copy this line, change here to customer ID, copy, paste it, change to number, date, due date, reference, terms and conditions. Alright, just another line, invoice discount. Alright, variable invoice update, variable requests, or alright, invoice items, variable requests, input invoice items variable invoice items delete for each JSON decode invoice item as items item copy this content of this for each JSON, paste it in our new for each JSON that we create in a unit. Alright, change here to product ID. Alright, let's go back in our browser to verify if we update our invoice where. Let's just add the new lines, click on save button. Alright, inspect in our console if there is no error or there is a mistake. Let's go back in our VS Code in edit.view. I was just forget import view root in my edit.view component. Before it, let's just verify if I was added also in my show.view component. Alright, I was forgetting to add it. Let's just add this view root in this show.view component. Import use root from view root const router use root. Let's now just copy this view root, go in my new.view and paste it here, and also go in my edit.view and paste it roots here again. Alright, now I think this mistake will going to disappear. Let's just verify on our browser, just some line. Alright, click on save. Alright, now you can see I'm already direct where, but we still have a mistake. Our invoice items details not appear. Let's verify also where is the mistake. Let's inspect by opening the console log. Alright, let's go in my VS Code in invoice controller, verify if there is no error. Okay, and go also in my edit.view to verify where is a mistake. Oh, I was just make a mistake here on this line. Alright, as you can see, I was right in my invoice controller on this line, invoice items, but in my edit.view, I was just right invoice item. The mistake was here. I think we will no longer get another mistake. Let's just verify. Alright. Let's now go on edit invoice, add the new lines of items. Alright, and click on save. Alright, I think there is no mistake again. As you can see, when I click on show invoice details, you can see the new line that was finished add in a unit. Alright, now we finish to update an invoice. Ready go now to create a delete function which will help us to delete a specific invoice. Alright, we'll go back in our VS Code in show.view and create a new function, const the name of our function, delete invoice, add params id axios dot get slash API slash delete invoice price id router dot push slash. Okay, let's just add a delete invoice function to this button, a click delete invoice form.id. Alright, now I'm going to create a new route. In our routes in api.php, copy this line, paste it here, just change here to get and here to delete and also here to delete. Alright, we'll go in my invoice controller now and create a delete invoice function. Public function delete invoice param id variable invoice find or fail variable id. Alright, invoice items delete and then invoice delete. Alright, let's go back in our VS Code and click to delete. As we can see, our invoice was deleted. Alright, that is all about of this tutorial. If you have any kind of question, you can ask me your question in comment box. Thank you for watching this video and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It motivates me to keep going. Thank you for watching.